I'm going to demonstrate a overhead approach, which is a way to land a formation of 1 to 4 fighter aircraft within the airspace and traffic pattern over their recovery airbase. So we're set up here flying in the South Korean theater. We are 11 miles north of Kunsan Air Base, and we're going to land on runway 18, which means we're going to be heading to the south, and we're going to fly an altitude of 1,500 feet AGL, above ground level, 350 knots. We're going to fly over the runway on the airbase, and at the halfway point of the runway, we're going to do a brake turn to the right, which will be over the water, not over the base. When we turn to the right, I'm going to reduce my throttle to idle and let the airspeed bleed off to 270 knots and catch it, hopefully, so it doesn't get very much slower than that. And we're going to roll out on a heading of 355, which means we're going to be pointing back to the north. So we will be on a reciprocal heading from the runway on what's called a downwind leg. We'll deploy the landing gear, let the airspeed slow to 200 knots, and at the appropriate visual cue we will start our turn to base, which will be a descending turn to get us aligned with the runway and on final approach. Now, for this flight, I'm a single ship aircraft. If there were others in my formation, since this is a right-hand traffic pattern, they would be in echelon formation off my left wing. So with that explanation, hopefully I'll be able to fly it correctly, and we'll demonstrate it. Here we go. So we're looking for 1,500 feet, 350 knots, and we're 10-mile initial. Kunsan Tower, Cowboy 1, 10-mile initial, overhead 18, right-hand pattern, full stop. So there is the runway, is just to the left of that steer point diamond that I'm putting in the center of my HUD. A little fast, so come back slightly on the power.
Cowboy 1-1, Kunsan approach 190 at 04 knots.
So I have a light wind out of the south, about 10 degrees off the heading of the runway. So even though I'm landing on runway 18, let me say, if you notice on my heading tape here on the bottom of my HUD, I'm flying a heading of about 175, correcting for wind drift. The runway is actually aligned to a heading of 175, but they always round off to the nearest 10 when dealing with compass headings, I guess. So we're going to fly to the center of the runway, which is going to be defined for me as my break point as when I'm abeam these fuel tanks, these kind of golden domed fuel tanks. Cowboy 1 brake, throttle's at idle, level turn, pulling about 3 Gs, watching my airspeed bleed off, keeping my altitude. There's coming up on 270 knots, so we want to hold that, or close to that, and we're looking at a heading of 355, right about there. Whoop. right about here. Watching my airspeed, now I'm coming to idle, and I'm going to let my airspeed further decrease. I'm going to drop my gear. I'm going to get permission to land.
Good morning, Cowboy 1, Kunsan approach, runway 18, welcome back.
Cowboy 1, base gear, 18 full stop. Alright, now I'm on my base turn. I'm going to hold between 190 and 200 knots. Descending turn. I'm looking in at my airspeed. I'm looking out at the runway. I'm looking in at my airspeed. Getting a little low, so I give a little throttle. Out at the runway. There's stall warning horn, but I got enough speed. I'm going to be good, not overshoot the runway, coming to
Good
idle.
morning, Cowboy 1-1, Kunsan Tower, cleared for landing, runway 18, check gear down.
Applying my speed brake, and now I'm on speed, and I'm on angle of attack. I'm a little fast right now. Now I'm back on speed, on angle of attack. And I'm looking to land on the center line. Decreasing my rate of descent, and idle. Keep the nose up for aerodynamic braking. Retract my speed brake. "4,000 feet of runway left. At 3,000 feet, I hit the wheel brakes. Let my airspeed drop off to below 60 knots. Engage the nose wheel steering, and just go to the end of the runway. Now I have to call tower. Kunsan Tower, Cowboy 1, clear 18, taxiway Alpha, taxi to parking. And we'll just pull into this reinforced bunker, or we'll pull up to it. We won't pull in it. And we'll hit the parking brake, get the crew chief to put in the chocks, and we're done. Overhead approach.